pod with an acapella of Duel of the Fates. I'll go first. Bye-bye! Hey, what's up? It's your boys. We're back. Another week, another fun day. This time is a birthday, which we haven't had it in like a month.
Happy birthday, James. Good to see you.
Happy birthday, James. By the way, you are now officially 26 again. If 26 is so good, why don't they make 26 too?
It's funnier than 24.
Anyways, we are here to celebrate Connor's favorite movie. He has been bothering us and pestering us and even offered services to do this podcast.
Why would I offer to pay your rent? I can't pay my own.
That is, of course, the Phantom Menace. 25 years of age. It can now rent a rental car without fees attached to that. Its insurance is going to go down a little bit.
It's a good year, 25.
25 is a solid year.
Technically speaking, quarter of your way through your life. Most people don't make it to 100, but it's supposed to be a pretty decent, So yeah, it's a pretty good year, 25.
Connor, why is this movie important to you?
All right, so we're diving right in. Okay. So this was the first Star Wars movie I ever watched. I did not start with A New Hope or anything else.
What?
I started with A Phantom Menace.
How?
Well, if you point out, it's 25 years old.
Okay.
We are all 26.
Okay.
So, I mean, it literally was like...
Okay, but somebody within the first 6 of years of your life should have been like, hey, by the way, here are these 3 really, really good movies.
No, so my dad... I don't fully remember it because I think I watched it when I was like 5. Like, I was a young boy. But my dad just put it on, I think. I think he wanted to watch it because, it had come out a few years beforehand. He just wanted to rewatch it or something. He probably just bought the DVD or the VHS at that point. And so he just put it on. He's like, here, you'll love this. Just watch it with me. And, I was a little shit kid, didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, yeah. And when you are itty-bitty, it's a banger.
Yeah?
It's a real banger.
Yeah?
I mean, that opening sprawl. I mean, that's every Star Wars. I don't know about you guys, but my first thought when I think of my first interaction with Star Wars is that as everything scrolls up. That's so iconic in every sense of the word.
It is. You're not wrong.
So that's why this movie is important to me. Is that literally is my first taste of every part of this is my first dip into that.
Is this this is your first just entry into movies? Period.
Almost in a sense, yes. Well, it would be safe to say that it probably was. Because I was watching Pixar movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is probably the first
But
time.
this is the first grown up.
Yeah, where I was like, whoa,
live action.
Cinema's a thing.
Yeah, this is peak.
James, I love watching James throw.
I was gonna ask. Let's throw it to James. James, is this movie important to you? You also disclaimer. You recently just watched it, as in got done watching it 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So you're fresh.
Well, I have seen it before.
Right. But I'm saying you rewatched it for the purpose of this pod.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the trilogy.
Yeah, it's not a good start.
I mean the sequels. Or the prequels. I like the prequels as a whole. Mm-hmm. The preferred way to watch them, as insane as it is back to back to back.
Yeah, it's a saga.
Making a day of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't watch them often. And the last time I did, I watched all 3 of them in one day. That's
the old Spike TV special right there.
Yeah. Yeah, just like Harry Potter.
R.I.P. Spike.
That's the home early from school special.
Yeah.
The summer break.
Well, actually, it was Thanksgiving last year.
True. Actually, I remember you talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I was in Phoenix and we were watching them at the same time.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving before he did Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
I think early
That was a year before. I did all 3 Lord of the Rings movies in one day, which is a little more insane.
Yeah, that one.
Like an extra
that
3
one
hours.
That one, I was like, you're actually wild. That's a
6 hours of movies is one thing. 12 hours of movies is another.
Yeah.
I had the day off.
Nothing else to
I
do.
wasn't gonna do anything. I like the entire trilogy of the prequels as a whole. And Revenge of the Sith is my personal favorite.
Absolutely.
But I love Anakin Skywalker's character arc in all 3 films. And watching Phantom Menace is a requirement for that reason.
Unfortunately.
But
It's not the best one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just like you were leading up with just like, yeah, everything else is great. And I was like, where's the smashing it down?
I love Anakin Skywalker's character arc,
Right.
Mhm.
including his childhood in Phantom Menace. I don't disregard it as a part of his story or think of it as inessential.
Right.
It's absolutely essential. Compared to everything else in the Star Wars franchise, though, let alone in the prequels, there is so much better material. At the very least, Phantom Menace is better than the sequel trilogy, but I think that's just
That's low-hanging fruit, is
Yeah,
what
that's
that is,
low hanging fruit. But they were not the first. I watched the original trilogy far before I ever watched
Yeah.
the prequels. So I knew Luke, Han, and Leia, and then going back to watch Anakin and Obi-Wan, I didn't really make the connection right away.
Yeah.
The first time I watched them.
Especially when you're like a kid, you can't really
Yeah.
put two and two together.
Yeah. When did you first come into contact with these movies?
The Phantom Menace, I think I was 7 or 8.
Okay.
So I grew up idolizing the original trilogy.
That
I
tracks.
never really cared much about the prequels. And the only prequel movie I really watched was Revenge of the Sith. And I watched it in theaters at the Dollar Movies. And I was
Nice.
like, yo, they just killed all the Jedi. like,
Wait a minute.
I remember leaving the theater and being like, what just happened? And then when he turns into Darth Vader, I was like, because I probably had the same reaction to you where I didn't connect.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned his name, Anakin, but you're like, who's Anakin? Who's Anakin?
you're like,
And then you
whatever.
watched Revenge of the Sith as your first, like, thinking of, or like your first appearance of, or first time seeing Anakin. So when he put on the mask at the end, I was like, yo, this is peak.
That reminds me, I also watched the prequels out of order.
Yeah, I did too.
I did
That
that.
would mess
yeah.
with you,
Yeah. I watched 3 first, and then I went back like 2 or 3 after 2 or 3 years later after 3. I went back and watched 1 and 2.
I think I watched Attack of the Clones first and then Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And then, like, even years later, I watched Phantom Menace
Because
afterwards.
Phantom Menace, I remember, for whatever reason, we could never find it on disc.
We could never find that
Yeah.
Blockbuster. I
Yeah.
think that was probably
Oh my
Yeah.
god,
our issue.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, because my mom bought it for me at a Goodwill. It was at
Wow.
a Goodwill, a VHS set, because we still had a VHS cassette player.
Yeah.
So we bought a VHS. It was like $4 or something like
Yeah.
that, and that's when I watched Phantom Menace because I was like, "This is the only one I haven't seen."
No.
And I'm glad I left it for last because it might be the worst one out of the 6.
Oh, that hurts me to say.
The problem
Pretty
is the highs are really, really high.
Yeah.
But the lows are
What lows? There aren't any.
pretty low,
There's not a single one.
all things considered.
No, there are some bad lows. They literally go underwater.
Yeah.
No, but then they come out through the course. They're actually going so low, they're going back up to a high.
I think all things considered, if you look at this movie and you just condense it to like the last 45 minutes, you're like, okay. It works.
I have some comments about that.
Okay, what? Before they get to Tatooine, what is important?
Well, okay.
Literally nothing.
If we're talking strictly for just the plot of the film, then yeah, there's not a whole lot there.
Yes.
Except for the fact of setting up the entire back end of that conflict with the whole Trade Federation blockade.
Sure.
Which, so like maybe the first 10 minutes, cut out, back 40.
But you could literally just
Then,
shoehorn that into 2, which they do anyways. So,
Well, I mean, like the invasion sequence doesn't make sense unless you have the intro of the Trade Federation blockade is happening. Is what I'm
or
saying.
you could just put it at the opening scroll and be like, hey, by the way, they did
Well,
this
then
thing.
they did.
And then they come back. And then we start with Anakin mowing down droids.
It's a terrible cut.
I think it works.
Go on, James.
Anyways.
As I have gotten older and rewatched these movies, I've appreciated the political side of the story more.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say next was that that if we're talking purely from plot, I get where you're coming from. If we're talking the story as a whole, Anakin's arc, the arc of just the world of Star Wars leading into the original trilogy, you need that intro of like, here's how the galaxy looks beforehand, so you understand how bad it is when everything goes south. Because even just like Palpatine becoming senator, or not senator,
Chancellor.
Without that intro of like, yeah, here's kind of how the world looks at first, it doesn't really make it as impactful without all that like introductory and all that politic crap and just like, you get an idea really, really fast that Palpatine is this kind of underhanded, sneaky dude. And like as a kid, yeah, like you're like, whatever, who cares? Who's this dude? But because like I just rewatched it like an hour ago. And I was like watching these I was watching these sequences and I was like, Palpatine is like really good.
How did they not spot this sooner?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like he literally makes this whole case about like, you got to do the vote of no confidence. It's terrible. And
Literally
then, like,
Hitler.
Yeah. And then like, he gets his he's like, "Oh wow, I got nominated. That's crazy."
Literally Hitler.
And then like as soon as it's like, "Well, yeah, you're going to help us, right?" And he was like, "Well, the bureaucracy is crazy." And I'm like, how did none of these people realize this dude is not have like their best interests at heart? Like it's like, this dude reeks of evil. Like, oh my god.
So I don't dislike the politics side. I'm just saying, if you look at the first movie in a vacuum, which I know is hard to do in a trilogy, it feels extremely disjointed when you're also comparing it to the beginning and the genesis of Darth Vader.
No.
It almost feels like they shoehorn Anakin, and they kind of do to a degree, where it's just like I get the whole, like, things kind of just happen in the way, the way the mystery of the universe works. Like, is it the Force? Is it predetermined? Is it free will? I get all that. I'm just saying, it feels weird to have, like, oh, here's, like, Game of Thrones in space. And then, hey, you guys want to go watch me do NASCAR for 40 minutes?
The biggest thing,
and then it's, okay, we're back to being Game of Thrones in space.
The biggest thing that I noticed where I was like, okay, you know what?
It's extremely disjointed.
I kind of get why people were mad at this movie when it came out. I did not realize that the pod racing bit was 30 minutes long.
Yes.
I thought
it's a full race.
It's a full race.
Yeah. It, like, literally
all 3 laps.
In my mind, that race is like maybe 10 minutes, and like them being on Tatooine is whatever. Like the rest of that's fine because like again, it's setting up Anakin's story. Yeah. But like I like
and it
finished
shows his skills,
and I was like sitting there, I was like, that was really long, and I went back and I paused and I looked at the runtime. I was like, that really is just like a 40-minute bit. Like it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
There is no reason.
That's my biggest issue with the first 2 movies. And we'll just keep it to this one for right now. Is it just the pacing is everywhere, which is why I think the third one is really good because it's like George Lucas says, "All right, I'm just telling you the downfall of Anakin. That's it. There's no other like grand conspiracies or anything like that he's trying to set up. It's like everything's out here. It's all laid out. Boom, we're just go time." Which is why the third one is the peak.
Well, you know why he can do that? Because he set up that downfall.
Yeah, but you could do it better. Is what I'm saying, Connor. I get what you're saying, and it makes sense, but like we've seen it happen with franchises. You don't have to go into too much detail.
I just like giving you shit.
That being said, it's still a really good movie. It's still a really entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of Anakin's
It's still Star Wars
introduction?
at the end of the day. It's fun Star Wars, and it's still Lucas at the helm.
It's fun Star Wars. It sets up some really cool stuff that people like associate with Star Wars. It's like the first time Duel of Fates was ever played. And like, I mean, if that's not Star Wars 101, like, come on.
It's also the peak, or not, I guess not the peak of the Jedi, but like the Jedi are in full effect at this point. And it's
the
like
peak on screen.
Yeah, you spend the entire original trilogy, like Obi-Wan and Yoda. Like in my mind, when I was a kid, it was like Obi-Wan and Yoda are the last of a dying breed, and they are like these mythological heroes. And so, and they're supposed to be the best, and right. And so when you go back and actually watch and like seeing Obi-Wan, it's like as a Padawan, and like you're still like, holy shit, he just 1v1 Darth Maul. Yeah. Like that's bad. Like I see why you're the GOAT. I see why you're the GOAT.
James, you asked a question and we kind of skipped over. What'd you say?
What do you think of Anakin's introduction?
Well, that's the problem. That's the thing I have, is it just feels like he was kind of shoehorned in.
Not just in the plot, but his character.
Just a slave working at a shop.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this earlier today. The whole like divine or immaculate conception
Yeah.
of Anakin.
Yeah. Which is apparently not a thing anymore because apparently anybody can do it according to the acolyte.
Let's
Anyways, continue.
go on.
I had to say that to make Connor mad.
Yeah,
Are you mad about that?
a little bit.
I mean, it's one of those plot elements that I totally did not pick up on when I watched this movie when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Or really at any point growing up. But
When she said he doesn't have a father, you were like, yeah, because he's deadbeat.
You're like, same.
it's more so when I was paying attention and I was like, oh, like we're going the space Jesus route,
Yeah.
which I think I understand why Lucas would make that Anakin's backstory. That to me feels more off kilter than even like the pod racing, though.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. That was one of my topics. Where I was like, the more that I think about it as an adult, the more I'm like, why is he just Space Jesus? Is really weird.
So I tried to work backwards, thinking if
This
you're
is gonna
Lucas,
get really philosophical. I thought we were gonna have like a fun talk. This is getting philosophical.
you've written the original trilogy. You know who Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to set up his character. He's your greatest villain. You want him to have a tragic backstory, but you want him to be a tragic hero. And so you want his demise you want his origins to be as dramatic as his demises, essentially. And I think Immaculate Conception basically fits the bill. Like he doesn't just throw that, oh, it's not enough that you're the most powerful Jedi. You're also the chosen one. Not only that, but you had an immaculate conception on top of that. And your blood is also like you can donate to anybody, my guy. You know,
He's
like
O positive.
Yeah.
Or O negative, whatever the
O negative.
universal.
Yeah. So
Final writer.
it's one of those things where like I don't necessarily want to say in theory, but if you're a George Lucas and you're trying to create this character, it's understandable why he gave Anakin that origin story,
Right.
so that it was as improbable as his, it's almost like he said, okay, what if Jesus turned evil, and I'll set it in space,
I mean,
which is kind of a cool idea.
It's a neat idea. And that is basically what he did. It was just like, what if the most powerful being did what a lot of people would do with unfathomable power, which is just corrupt. I mean, that's a rule in a lot of things, is power corrupts, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it makes sense to have be like, this person is so powerful that he literally just snap into existence. But it is just kind of still a little weird in the sense it's just like, why wasn't he discovered sooner? Why wasn't he talked about?
Do you guys subscribe to the theory that it was Palpatine that manipulated the Force?
No,
For her to
there was original George Lucas plan for that to be part of the story, but he didn't. He scrapped it.
It's not.
didn't
I
he?
don't think it's official, but it is heavily theorized.
Yeah, because it's understandable if it was in the script and then he just didn't include it in the movie. It's understandable that the rest of the script
Kind of hints at
would,
it. Yeah.
would hint at it, and obviously expanded universe writers are gonna take any hint and run with it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't subscribe to that idea.
Yeah, because
whatsoever.
my thing with that is, if you did that to have like this heir apparent that was basically Jesus, why would you cast him off to the outer rim
Exactly.
in a
Like,
slave
unless
as a slave?
especially because Rey is a Palpatine in the prequels.
No, I don't want to talk about that. She is in the sequels.
Yeah, because like if it's Palpatine did that,
Spoiler for the sequels, by the way.
it would basically imply that he has like obscene precognition or precognition that's so bad that he just kind of vibes with it. Because like either A, he cast him out, which makes no sense, right? B, he is capable of seeing so far into the future that he saw Anakin being found by some happen chance from the Jedi flying to Tatooine. In which case, why can't he also see that Anakin is going to eventually destroy him?
Yeah.
Like, where's the stopper, right? Or he's just like, if I manipulate the Force, I can make the chosen one.
Yeah.
And then, but if he knows the prophecy, why would you do that? If you can't find him, you're relying on the Jedi to do it. Like,
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah. I think it makes the prophecy itself more interesting if it was an immaculate conception compared to Palpatine doing it.
Mhm.
But it's still kind of weird that it was an immaculate conception, because again, even in space, wouldn't Shmi be like, "This is a little weird that I'm just pregnant. Shouldn't I tell somebody about this? Wouldn't Watto be like, hey,
Maybe
we can make money off of this? Like, this woman just got pregnant for nothing. We can cash this
I
out."
mean, maybe there's not Planned Parenthood out in Tatooine. We don't know.
True. I mean, it is controlled by the Hutts.
Yeah.
But like, it just feels like there's a couple steps that would be missed in I'm suddenly pregnant.
Don't worry, I'm sure the expanded universe writers have a perfectly reasonable and logical explanation
For all
Sure
of
there
that.
is,
for
yeah.
all of your
Yeah,
problems.
yeah.
I'm sure I could find it. I try
Like
to.
the fact that they were like, oh, Palpatine. The reason why nobody knew that Palpatine was a Sith Lord is because he was so powerful in the Force, he could mask himself. But the reason why nobody could tell that Anakin was because he was too powerful. He couldn't help but mask himself. And I'm like, you could just not do that anyway.
You could just say people are dumb.
Yeah,
That solves it. Like,
yeah. And boy, is the Jedi Council full of
Stupid.
dummies.
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think the sequel trilogy missed. Was just they kind of hinted at it with Luke Skywalker and what was the second one?
What are you talking
The second
about?
sequel trilogy movie.
You mean
Oh,
like
Last
I'm
Jedi.
talking like what you guys said about the Jedi
mhm.
being dumb.
Yeah. Last Jedi was the second
Yes.
one, right?
I wish they expanded on that more.
Yeah.
Because there are some moments where you're like, I mean, the whole thing with Anakin, right? The reason he goes to the dark side is because he feels like he's no longer welcomed in the Jedi.
Yeah.
Because it's like he can't have this lover, but it's like love is a feeling that men or not men, but man,
People, yeah.
MAN,
Yeah.
has. It's like you can't control that.
Mhm.
And that's why he ends up going evil. It's like you guys had it, and then you just kind of.
Yeah. All you had to do was let man smash for a little bit. Probably.
Yeah,
Obi-Wan did it,
Yeah. Well.
allegedly.
allegedly, but also.
Allegedly,
Actually.
but also, have you seen
But
the man?
also-
He was laying pipe across the galaxy.
Anyways, moving on right along. How do we feel about Anakin Skywalker? Greatest fallen hero / protagonist / antagonist of the last 25 years? Even more, considering the Darth Vader?
I definitely prefer Anakin Skywalker over Darth Vader as a character.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Ooh, that's a good statement. I like that. Expand.
That's fun.
I am
This is
a
good discussion.
massive fan of the Clone Wars.
Right.
'Kay.
As you should be.
And so
Based.
I have just enjoyed exploring Anakin's character
Mhm.
far more than I have all of the like Galactic Empire era
Mhm.
under Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Now, Isaac, I'm about to make you really mad. I agree with James.
What, Clone Wars is better than the...
No, that Anakin, at least talking strictly the movies, right?
Yeah.
Strictly the movies. Anakin is a more interesting character than Darth Vader.
Okay, well, if you're talking strictly movies, Darth Vader is just a villain in
Exactly.
the original ones. So of
He doesn't
cour-
really have a character to explore, which is why, like, the only reason people like him is because he's cool up until the last one where it's...
Yeah, what more do you need?
That's what I'm saying. Like...
Okay, but Anakin is the cooler Vader.
yeah, like Anakin
No, that's fair.
has the coolness
That's fair.
of like just being a badass and having
Yeah.
all these lightsaber powers, but also a personality. Like,
Well,
and then
he's
now,
just a moody teenager.
as if you don't relate to that.
Reddit mod.
Yeah, shut. We all were moody teenagers. You get it. That being said, if we're talking expanded stories, Vader completely slaps Anakin out of the water. Expanded Vader is deep, complex, awesome.
He is. He also has like one hang up.
Well, I mean, I'd have one hang up too if I turned evil to save my wife and I killed her
Yeah. I don't know.
and then looked ugly.
I think it's because I like the universe. I've explored more of the
Clone Wars.
universe in the shows
Yeah.
and in the comics,
Yeah.
just because I enjoy that era of Star Wars. Personally.
No, I do think the Clone Wars is the best
Yeah,
era,
for sure.
era of Star Wars.
The
Which is
characters
why
that
I'm
come out of
always
that.
frustrated when they're like, no, we're still doing Rebels and Stormtroopers. Like, nobody likes it. Unless you're like 50 or a kid.
Isaac's trying to start some fights here.
Been throwing rebels under the bus now,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah, what do you have against the rebels? Besides
They're
the fact
fine.
that their outfits are dumb and their gun
They're
designs
fine.
are bad.
But we have 6 movies
They were
and
easily the
numerous
worst faction
TV
in
shows
Battlefront
about
2.
rebels and Empire. We don't need any more.
No,
We're good.
I'm with you. I would love to see more. I mean, I can get why they wouldn't do more in the Clone Wars because we already have the perfect story in the Clone Wars animated show. Where I mean, how do you top anything that happens in that? But it would be nice to just see more. I mean, war is just fun to write about. Really, what it boils down to.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of really fun, interesting stories.
Yeah.
Go on, James.
I was gonna say,
Take a comment of the fact that I brought up war being fun.
it's called Star Wars.
True.
That's all it is.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something, and I lost it.
Sorry.
No, it wasn't you. It was completely different.
All right, Padme.
What about her?
Does she hold up? I feel like there's very loud silence from both of you.
So I know a lot of people.
That one's a little more rough to talk about.
I know a lot of people didn't like Child Anakin because a lot of people don't like child actors for acting like children.
Yeah, Jake Lloyd did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I was say he did great. For
We are a
child.
Jake
He
Lloyd
acted-
podcast. Put that on the record book.
He acted exactly like a 8-year-old kid who suddenly finds himself in the middle of conflict would act.
Under the direction of George Lucas, too.
Under the direction of George Lucas. Yeah, I think he did fine.
World-renowned character actor George Lucas.
Yeah.
Or character director.
Padme's lines and delivery were a little rough in that first movie, weren't they?
They're rough in every movie.
Yeah, but like
The scene where Obi-Wan is telling her that he's gone bad and she's like, it's like she's talking to a mirror.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Which is weird because she's an Oscar-nominated, and I think Oscar-winning actress. Yeah, Oscar-winning. She won for Black Swan.
Yeah, but that was afterwards. Maybe this was her like learning phase. Had to get through this role to learn
I
the
don't know.
good
Like, I think it's just George Lucas just being a bad director.
I mean, yeah, that's what it could be.
Yeah.
Too. It's just he just didn't use.
Or
his
I don't think
talent
it's what it
correctly.
could be. I think that's. I mean, I think that's what it is. Because I always like when the original trilogy, the trio of Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher are always like, they always tell stories about stuff they had to cut from the script because George Lucas is just such a bad writer.
Which really makes you wonder how these really took off. You got to give the man credit. Where
We've
it's
never
really-
seen it before. That was the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. I mean, when we did our Alien pod, we talked about it where it was this Alien and 2001: A Space Odyssey were the
Yeah.
only like mainstream science fiction movies within those 10 years.
And then talking about effects too, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also a time period of that era of Hollywood, the new Hollywood era, where these directors are taking charge and telling the studios like, "Hey, I make the shots."
They're
And
the
it's like-
auteur.
Yeah, and people were like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Give us more."
Yeah.
And then they did a complete 180 where the studios were like, "All right, we're buying back
Yeah.
the directors."
Yeah. Thanks, Apocalypse Now.
Thank you, Apocalypse Now.
Um,
Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan.
do we want to talk about the GOAT? The GOAT Jedi?
James, you made a face for a second.
The
Which
GOAT
concerns
Jedi.
me.
Well, there's not much
Let
to
me lay
talk
out his
about.
accomplishments, ESPN style.
Um, I-
Jedi of the Year, 5 years running.
I really
MVP.
appreciate how he is in Phantom Menace as a contrast to how he is in the rest of the series as a whole. Because up to this point, we've seen Obi-Wan as Ben Kenobi, the wise,
Yeah.
the mythical,
Mhm.
a completely infallible,
A folk hero.
a true
essentially.
legend, yeah. And then you look at Attack of the Clones, and you look at Revenge of the Sith, and he's charismatic, he's fun, he's still got that wisdom behind him.
He's a
great.
soldier.
Yeah. But then seeing
Well, he's
him
a general.
as
Well,
Yeah,
you know what I
I
meant.
know seeing him as kind of more of like almost like a kid. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of you could see where he could get to those points. Like you could see the mold that he's being or the clay that he's being molded into. But like he's still like I think of the fight with Maul, right? Where he when the doors close, right?
Yeah.
Maul's pacing because he's Sith. That's what he does, right? He's full of aggression and anger. He's doing his pacing. Qui-Gon goes straight into meditation. And you would think that the other Jedi would also kind of have that like calming moment. But Obi-Wan is still like tense. Like you could see him like almost flexing as he's like, I need to go, right?
Mhm.
And so I really appreciate that looking at it as a trilogy wise. And then I think even just solo, he's just a fun little contrast to Qui-Gon's like, I'm better than everyone kind of personality, like.
I think he even says when Anakin goes on board, he's like, "Why did we pick up another lifeless or another useless life form?" And I was like, "Oh shit, Heater from Obi-Wan."
Oh. He calls out Jar Jar a lot. Too.
Yeah.
He's just like, what the hell?
I mean, it doesn't help that Qui-Gon, turns into freaking, Lisan al-Gaib every time he sees Anakin Skywalker.
He's still guard.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a Paul reference earlier.
I didn't
God
think
damn
about that.
it.
That's a good point.
God damn it! I was gonna make a Paul
So
reference
good.
earlier.
Anyway, Jar Jar. Anyway,
Wait, you didn't answer the question. Is
Yeah, you
Obi
didn't answer your own question. How do you feel about Obi-Wan?
Obi-Wan? That was my question. Is Obi-Wan the GOAT?
Yeah.
He's a fan favorite.
GOAT Jedi.
But is he the GOAT? We're asking you.
Who compares?
Mace Windu.
No,
No?
I don't think so.
This man needs to get on his expanded universe.
But see that.
But
no,
we
we're not.
can't talk about the expanded universe.
All of that's not.
Okay,
All that's not
okay.
canon anymore.
You can't talk about it.
Okay.
It's not real.
Sadly, it's not
It's
real
not
anymore.
real. It's now just legends.
Yeah.
James has become the
That
very
being
evil.
said-
James has become the very evil. He swore to destroy, bringing up the
being
expanded
said-
universe.
In the expanded universe, James has a fair argument.
Yeah.
Mace Windu is kind of
No.
badass.
Well,
But
okay.
strictly in
Let's
those
be
movies.
fair. In the expanded universe, everybody's a goddamn like Soul Calibur 6 character.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally.
It's true, yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch like the Clone Wars, the first one, the one that's like 2D animated, and you see like Mace Windu straight up dropkick General Grievous, and you're like, yeah, that's not.
Dude,
That's not real.
that
Cannot be real.
that makes General Grievous look like so much more of a cooler character too. He's not scary.
Yeah.
Except for in that
Yeah,
short.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, James, go on. Or was that the end of your statement? Was just Mace Windu's better?
I like Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
I think my
Idiots.
judgment is clouded by the fact that he's almost too venerated by the fans, and I can't tell how much of that is irony.
You're being a hipster right now.
Yeah, I'm being a
Classic
total
James
hipster.
posting.
No, I mean, I mean,
It's one of those things where is something the best because everybody likes it,
yeah.
or does everybody like it because it's the best?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obi-Wan is a fun character.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate his sense of humor. But he kind of fumbled the bag with Anakin a little bit. Let's be.
Yeah, but I mean, like, isn't that the point?
Yeah, that is the point. But I mean, I don't know. I like Mace. I like Mace Windu. I like Yoda. I think they're
Those are all fair.
Yoda
Yeah.
does go pretty hard.
Yoda
Yeah.
does go pretty hard, yeah.
especially in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
You know.
I especially enjoy watching Yoda realize throughout 3 movies that he really dropped the ball all the way back in episode 1 when he was like, oh man, this Anakin kid really misses his mom.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do anything about that. Come on, Yoda. You could have sent a task force and been like, hi, this is ours now. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, we're taking 2 seconds. Anakin problem solved. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah.
That's just my opinion, though. Personally, Obi-Wan is the goat, but he's standing in a room full of goats. You know.
And I think that's fair. There's a lot of Goat Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, name some.
Kit Fisto.
Doesn't he die the first time we see him?
Yeah, but in the expanded Lord.
Oh my god.
I wasn't gonna make that argument.
No, I knew you were thinking it. I was like, I
No,
have to.
no, I wasn't. Going
Dude, Aya Sakura? However you pronounce her name?
She gets shot in the back.
Yeah, but she's hot.
Look, you guys are naming Jedi that look cool. I'm naming Jedi based off of stats. All right. What other Jedi went
All right.
toe to toe with 3 Sith Lords and lived to tell the
Dude,
tale
could
until he
you
was 80
two
years
take on?
All I'm saying is Anakin Skywalker is apparently this big bad, and it's a 2-1 to Obi-Wan in that fight. Just saying. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, go to Jedi, Dooku.
Oh, okay. That one is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Except he got beated by the actual GOAT, Obi-Wan.
Well, he wasn't a Jedi then. He was a Sith.
Oh, good point. Okay,
Yeah,
good
see?
point. Good point.
As a
good point.
Jedi, he's got a pretty good track record.
Does
So
he?
anyway, let's talk
I'm
about
just being
real,
pedantic.
real Sith Lords and Jedi's here, guys. Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
All right.
The OG perpetrator.
So I'm gonna make some people mad at me.
That one is so stupid. The that theory.
That
I
was
he's
the
like the
Sith Lord.
mastermind
Yeah,
behind
that
it.
that he's like the actual like true. I think it's, great.
It's so funny, but it's so stupid.
I have always enjoyed Jar Jar Binks as a character. I love him to death.
Yeah.
I think he brings some really like decent levity to what would otherwise be a really strong, harsh political narrative. I don't think he should have been a senator at any point. I think whoever allowed that to happen was a fucking moron.
I mean, have you seen who's in our Senate now? Was George Lucas making commentary 25 years early?
I mean, unironically maybe, but yeah, I think he's great. I think just, and I mean, like the Gungans as a whole, I think are just fun. As just not all intelligent races need to be the way that we think of them, because like all of the Gungans are kind of a little like,
Silly.
kind of, yeah, a little silly. The way they,
They're just about to say something racist.
They're just a bunch
I wasn't
of
gonna say it,
silly
no.
gooses.
yeah, they're just like they wouldn't be like what I imagine a lot of us think of like.
Intelligence.
I wasn't gonna use the word intelligent, like as in like an alien kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't look at the Gungans and be like, oh, these are like spacefaring, like capable of doing much. You're like, oh, these are like the joke races, and I'm like, no, like they're still kind of cool. Like, I mean, they held off the entire droid army for an entire sequence. Like the Gungans are pretty badass.
Did they hold him off?
Yeah. I mean,
They did.
They got surrounded after the very last moment.
I was gonna
but
say,
they
they
were
got
doing a pretty good
surrounded.
job.
It took a lucky
Listen.
shot.
When your defense against ion cannons is just a big old shield generator on the back of a giant beast, it's pretty awesome. Like, let's be honest.
No, it is very cool.
So, like, I always like Jar Jar. I know a lot of people hate him because he's stupid, but I feel like he's just kind of needed. He's just a good, like, little contrast to the very, like, calm and mature Jedi.
Yeah, but there's not really comedy in the 3 movies that precede this one.
He's trying something new. Again, it's expanded. It's the
for,
whole point.
It's for the kids.
Yeah, it's for the kids. The whole point of the prequels was to
The same 2 guys who spent 30 minutes arguing that animation is not just for kids are now telling me that Jar Jar
Well,
Binks
I'm saying it
was for the
facetiously.
kids.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it was
I know,
100%
I
for
know.
the bit. Yeah,
I know.
I know.
It's just funny. I had to point that out.
because like the prequels, along with explaining Anakin's story and how we got to Darth Vader, right? How we got to the Chosen One,
Yeah.
are also supposed to be expanding the world as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they're gonna have more than just like this grounded narrative that's only around the handful of people because he's trying to just show off everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, that's why you're gonna have a little bit more comedy. All the prequels are a lot more funny than this original trilogy were.
Do you think Jar Jar would be more respected if he was played by Michael Jackson, which was supposed to be the case?
You didn't know that?
I did not know that. That's a fun factoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Jackson just didn't want to do mocap.
And you know what? It's probably for the best. We wouldn't want the 4Kids character to be somebody played by somebody who might have allegedly been a little too into children.
Don't say it. Anyways.
Yeah, I hate Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me
I know.
too.
I know you too. Yeah, I know you both hate it.
Everything you said makes sense, Connor, in the terms of like expanding the world,
Yeah.
expanding the universe, making it funnier. It's executed terribly
No, which
with
is
the
fair.
character. of Jar
I
Jar.
hate Jar Jar in Phantom Menace. He barely does anything in
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the
I
Sith.
mean, he has one scene in 3 where he's at the funeral, and I'm like,
yeah.
I do the Leo snapping.
Yeah. I do that too. And then he has like maybe 2 scenes in Attack of the Clones
The beginning.
where, and then there's a scene later where he gives Palpatine.
Yeah, because he's like the
a
emergency
dictatorship.
senator or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Amidala got kidnapped or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, why are senators like just leaving at any point?
It's a fictional story, my guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
when you have what looks like maybe 1,000 senators, you could probably like have
I'm
one or
just
two
saying.
just bail.
I feel like if we're in a galactic crisis,
Yeah.
any and all people who can and should do something should probably, I don't know, stay at the seat of power.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't really a crisis by the time she was leaving. She was off doing something else. And she was about to be assassinated. They're like, we should put her somewhere safe. And then after that whole sequence, they're like, okay, well, now it's a bit, okay, now we're in a bit of a crisis. There's a war happening.
Well, they go, okay, you almost got assassinated. So let's, instead of putting you even into more security under our eye, we're going to send you back to your home planet. It's
Yeah.
like, the fuck? That's the stupidest thing I've ever
Well,
heard.
okay, think about it in terms of, like, think of it as the states. It's not planets now, it's just the states, right?
Right.
If a senator's getting attacked, odds are they're going to go back to their home state. They're not going to stay in Washington.
No,
that's where
we
everything is.
literally saw that with Donald Trump.
He's not a senator. He's the president. Well, he's not a president.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, people of power will stay, like, where they're able to be secured. Like,
No.
That's the
And
way
the
I
most
look at
secure
it.
place was Naboo. There was a whole sequence about it.
All I'm saying is Boba Fett wouldn't have missed.
I'm not saying I
Correct.
don't understand that. I'm saying that's a stupid idea.
No, yeah.
What'd you say, James?
No, don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
no, it was definitely a good underhanded comment that should stay underhanded.
All right, moving on.
How about this? Let's change subjects completely.
Yeah, let's
away
just
from
stop talking about the
characters.
logistics of it.
Yeah.
The visual effects.
Oh, they're rough at times.
The upscale.
You can't even argue with
no,
that.
no, no.
Stop.
It was the first thing I
You
noticed.
wanted to argue so bad.
No, it was the first thing I noticed was like I was like, yeah, the droids look fine, you know, whatever, because they like digitally remastered everything, right?
Yeah.
I was like, droids look fine. And then the first time Jar Jar's on the screen, he looks like he's like cut out and like copy pasted it on. I was like, oh, it's bad. I don't remember them looking this bad when it was way back when.
It's weird because Lord of the Rings comes out 3 years later. It's like masterpiece.
Yeah.
And this one is like straight up Windows 2000 Windows Buena Vista software.
The pod racing looks good.
Yeah.
Pod racing looks great.
Unironically, I think some of the
I
best
think
CG
that one
sequence.
he definitely went back and touched up for like 7 months.
Yeah. He was definitely cooking with
He
the
does
CGI
that.
in that scene.
I don't know how do you feel about that?
The pod racing?
That he goes back and
Oh.
touches up.
I don't mind it, personally, you know? Okay. There are certain forms of art where I feel like if an artist wanted to go back and not just remaster, quote unquote, but remaster
Yeah.
what they had already put out, I would feel like I was, you know, it would detract from what I enjoyed from the original. There are times where it's enhanced it. I mean, we know director's cuts, for example. I don't mind it with movies, personally. I've actually seen it done with books. I think it's kind of weird. But with movies, I don't mind it at all. If you want to remaster your movie, if you want to add in scenes or, you know, switch shots, I'm okay with it. I don't have any qualms about any director doing that for any of their films, personally.
Okay.
That's just me. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
If somebody tried to do that with a book, I'd be like, what?
How do you even do that? You just go to everybody who has a
Yeah.
copy and just like, all right, here's a chapter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Here's some
happened too.
whiteout.
I mean, Chuck Palahniuk re-released Invisible Monsters Redux because he added chapters and he swapped stuff around.
That's funny.
I mean, think of all the times Kanye has done it for his albums too. You know?
Hold up, I'm gonna fix wolves.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't mind people doing that for their stuff. If it's gonna make it better, do it.
Yeah.
Basically, you know.
I don't care either way. I was just
Yeah.
throwing that question out there.
I know. I could be. It's very divisive.
Yeah.
Across the community, how they feel about the ups or the retouching, and stuff like that. So it's a good thing to bring up. But yeah, I think all of us are just kind of like, if it makes it better,
Absolutely.
Doesn't make it better.
doesn't some
In
places.
the instance of Star Wars and George Lucas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, Revenge of the Sith hasn't aged at all, in my opinion.
No, I'm not saying going back and upscaling to 4K. I'm saying when he goes and he digitally adds shots to the film. Like in episode 4, New Hope, there are cutaway scenes of the Mos Eisley spaceport that are completely digital. And it's stuff like that I'm talking about. I don't like the whole like make the lightsabers bluer like that.
Yeah.
Everybody
No.
does that.
Yeah.
Everybody does that every 10 years. But it's the stuff like that, or like in Jabba's palace in episode 6, when the band plays that was added.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody hated that.
You know, it's one of those things where whether it helps or not is going to be subjective to the person.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with somebody doing that. But at a certain point, you have to be satisfied with it anyway and say, I'm not going to touch this anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the fact that he keeps doing it. Like, my guy, there are other movies you can watch. You don't just have
Just
to
go make
rewatch
another
your own
movie.
movies. Yeah.
Well, probably can't. Everybody doesn't have any ideas.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
know,
Star
that's
Wars
fair.
was one.
so that's just my opinion, you know,
Yeah.
personally. I don't mind him doing it. Maybe he should just stop doing it at a certain point.
Connor, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, some of them are good. Some of them are bad. It's entirely based on how you view them.
Now, if he could release a cut of the prequel trilogy that had Jar Jar Binks removed entirely,
That would be impressive.
that'd
if he
be-
could do that, 'cause
I
Jar
want to
Jar-
see it removed, but he doesn't change anything about how the characters interact. So it's just like there's an entire sequence where it's just Qui-Gon talking to nothing.
yeah.
But that goes back to my earlier point of the movie feeling disjointed. It's like, again, there's this character that we don't need. He's not important at all, Jar Jar Binks.
The pacing doesn't bother me personally. It really never has. Star Wars is not about the pacing.
No. I'm not saying pacing. I'm saying the actual like conjoining of the multiple story threads
Yeah,
that are
well,
happening.
okay.
at the same time.
I'm using the word pacing to
Okay,
describe
okay, yeah.
that. It's never bothered me at all. Yes, I don't like Jar Jar, and there are those subplots like with the Gungan at the beginning that feel disjointed, but that still doesn't detract from the movie, in my opinion. Well, I really, at the end of the day, I don't think Phantom Menace is a bad movie. I just think it's not the best Star Wars movie,
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
in my opinion. I have
Is it the worst?
no.
No, the sequels exist.
Okay. Again, low hanging fruit.
So yeah, I know, but I'm gonna take it.
It's there for the taking. Yeah.
The George Lucas 6. Is it the worst?
Probably.
I mean, Empire Strikes Back is.
I was gonna say Return of the Jedi.
It's like, which one can I pick that'll make the most people be like, hey?
Why do you think it's the worst?
I don't know. Because the first two have like really, really cool moments.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like a lot of nonsense to get to those really, really cool moments.
I don't
Like episode 2, I don't need the 15 million picnic scenes from Anakin and Padme.
You don't like
It's
love?
the same thing that I felt with Paul and
Look at
Chani.
this Jedi over here.
It's the same. No. It's the same thing I felt with Paul and Shiny, where it's like I just need
Yeah.
3 scenes in a montage. Just give me 3 scenes in a
what
montage,
they
and
did.
I get it. They're in love.
my God, you
I
read
don't
the
need.
books.
I don't need 15. I don't need 50 minutes of this. Like, just let's get it. Let's get a move on to more interesting things to
Chop
me.
chop, story boy. Next scene.
But it's also just me because I don't
It's a
like.
dancing monkey with a soundboard.
I don't care for romance
We know.
personally. So, like in movies and TVs,
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
it doesn't do anything for me. I think it's quite literally. I think it's low hanging fruit.
I think part of my enjoyment of Anakin Skywalker is his relationship with Padme.
No, I don't mind the relationship. It's
Just
just
saying is too much of it.
I don't need 50 minutes of it in episode 2 yet. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To show that they're in love. It's just like just give me 2 scenes in a montage.
I think it's funny, and this is just talking structurally speaking. We experienced the exact same issue with Hitman.
True.
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
I mean, Dune 2, I had the same feeling where I was like I didn't need 30 minutes of the going on sandworm dates. Like
I don't know, that was kind of
this movie could have started with them in love and I would have been like, "All right, we're good. We're off to the races. Let's keep it moving."
Mm-hmm.
He just likes action. He wants to get more to
Yeah, I mean, that's just me as a viewer though. I
No.
don't care for romance.
I think it's different
In movies and TV.
depending on the intention of the story. I don't think it was in Hitman's intention to bore you with the romance for that long.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
absolutely think it was George Lucas's intention to like hammer in that they are falling in love and they aren't supposed to, and so we have to sit through them.
Yeah.
As slow as a process as it is of them coming to that conclusion and realizing that they are, the Romeo and Juliet in space.
Mhm.
It's necessary for the drama of their character arcs.
Yes.
As boring as it is as a viewer, I think it's working as intended.
I disagree. But anyways, moving on.
I could see both of your points.
You can disagree personally on the entertainment level.
Yeah, that's what that. Yeah,
That's all he's
what we're
been saying.
talking about.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, no,
movie.
no, that's what I'm
I wanna be
saying.
entertained. You're looking at this as like a textbook where you're like
art form, yeah.
critiquing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's Star Wars. I want to be entertained.
Isaac is the kid who's like, this is icky and gross, and you're like, as a film major, I understand all the nuance of this, and it's really good.
I
and helps you
get
understand the
I
character."
understand what
Yeah.
it is. You have to show that they're in love because it
Yeah.
makes the emotional impact of episode 3
Yeah.
more important.
So enjoy it.
I'm just saying, I could have done without that.
But then it's not as
just
good.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm saying I watched episode 3 the first time, not knowing their relationship, and I
No,
still felt
absolutely.
impacted
No,
at the
yeah.
end of episode 3.
Yeah.
Because you reestablished
I think
No, I'm
I'm
saying
agreeing
I
with your
watched-
point. Is what I'm saying.
you guys agree. Why are you arguing?
Because I like to make fun of Isaac and it pisses him off.
God damn it! All right.
It's really easy to push his buttons.
So going with that, let's do the whole trilogy as a whole. Let's rank moments. In
Moments.
Moments?
Individual scenes.
Yeah, let's do like scenes, montages, a still frame if you
All
want.
right. Pod racing, #1 spot.
Let's go 6. Let's go.
Pod
let's go
racing would be okay. In a vacuum,
It's too
pod
long.
racing
Says the guy who watches F1 every Saturday.
Sunday.
because it's
Whatever.
entertaining.
So it's a pod racing. There's explosions.
No, okay. In a vacuum, the pod racing scene on its own is very well done.
Yeah.
That's at least an A. In the
Yeah.
context of the rest of the film,
Yes.
it's a massive time hole.
yes.
It's just too much.
It's like at least a C or D.
I just like throwing it out there because people get mad at
No, absolutely.
It's a cool idea,
Yeah.
and the
a
game
fun-
is
it's a fun
really
world-building.
fun.
Yeah.
Episode 1 racer, really fun
that.
game.
That arcade game where it was actually you're in the pod, that slapped.
No, it was a game on the 64.
You guys are talking
too.
about two
They're
different games.
talking about 2 different games, yeah. I'm saying there was another game. There was an arcade game where you could
Oh,
get
I didn't know
in a
that.
pod. Yeah, it was
I knew
awesome.
there was the one where you could control the X-wing.
Yeah, no, this was way way
Whoa,
back
that's
ago.
kinda cool.
They discontinued
Okay.
it, and then they made the pod thing where it's the like
I didn't know about
sphere.
the pod.
Yeah,
I had the game on the 64.
that was fun.
That was cool.
Um,
Anyways,
Anyway, top 6 moments.
yeah. Number 1 for me, I
just
just go
prequels?
right off the bat. Yeah, prequels as a whole. Number 1 for me, right off the bat, from when he kills Mace Windu all the way up until Obi-Wan leaves. There's like a
Oh, you said
scene
this
where they like
before.
are looking at each other across this Coruscant. Gorgeous. To me, that is peak Star Wars.
It's
That is
before
what Star
he
Wars
goes
is.
to see Mace Windu.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
You're
right
Sorry.
before
I'm
that
a fraud.
moment.
I
No, no,
actually
you're good.
never seen these movies.
Fake Star
Yes,
Wars
it is before he goes to see
No,
Mace
that scene is
Windu.
absolutely peak.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
It's my. I love that track. I think it's called like Padme's Ruminations or something like that.
Ruminations. yeah.
Ruminations. Again, I don't know words.
Yeah,
Um,
he didn't actually watch Star Wars.
I actually never have seen.
Never seen
What
it,
is
yeah.
Star Wars? When do we talk about Spock?
I was just gonna make a Star Trek reference.
All right, that's my number 1.
Yeah, that would probably be up there for me too.
Yeah.
At least personally, for
Connor?
sure.
My number 1 would have to be a tie between the fight sequence, the final fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin,
Mhm.
or
That's my number 2.
the fight with Darth Maul. That final fight with Darth Maul. I think both of those are like really, really up there for just character moments, good stuff. You got Duel of Fates on both. Peak cinema.
Personally, Anakin versus Obi-Wan is an amazing fight scene.
Mhm.
But Yoda versus Palpatine.
It's also up there.
That
And
would
they go
probably-
back. They
and
intercut
they cut-
with each
yeah,
other.
The fact that it's cut back and forth between the two.
That's why I'm like, oh, this is peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
sets
those
up
are both.
perfectly.
Those are like both 2A, 2B,
Mm-hmm.
But like,
1A, 1B.
as Star Wars fans,
Yeah.
you cannot tell me that the first time when Darth Maul walks up and Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon pull out their lightsabers and he does the boom, boom, that you weren't like,
I don't think I was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. Again, I watched
children.
I was a child.
Yeah, and even then I knew this was peak. I was like, cinema will never get better than this. And I was right.
Well, more power to you.
I wish,
Nothing
I, could,
has
I wish I
been-
could live in a bubble like that. No, it is very cool. It's a very good scene. That's it.
It's fine. You guys can be wrong. It's okay.
No, I'm not.
Number
I don't-
two
I don't
moments. Number
hate
two
that.
moments.
I don't hate the scene.
No,
Number
no,
two.
my-
It's just, personally, for me, it's not my number 1.
My number 1 would be Ruminations,
Mm-hmm.
that sequence. My number 2 would be Yoda versus Palpatine.
Understandable.
My number 3 would probably be, and this is just me proving that I'm a Revenge of the Sith fanboy because it's another Revenge of the Sith scene, but it's the very opening. That whole sequence of them rescuing
Yeah, that's
Palpatine.
a good one. Yep.
Oh, I really appreciate the over edit of like, what if this was a Marvel movie where it's got that one song over it? It's
Oh,
such a
yeah.
good
Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah.
cut.
Yeah.
Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah.
That's how you know cinema has just like gone down a hill when people were like, "This is awesome." I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is not awesome. This is objectively the worst thing I've ever seen.
My
in my life.
fourth favorite scene: the end of Attack of Clones.
When
they're
loading
actually
up,
storming the
loading in,
planet. Yeah.
Oh no, when they're storming the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
When the clone troopers come in.
When the dropships
when
are
they do
happening,
a got you.
That whole like battlefield sequence on
that was cool.
what's it called?
Dude, imagine drunk driving
Genosis.
one of those things.
Genosis. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Drunk driving
Which
one of them?
I said
on
a TikTok of like a
Oh,
lat
okay.
gunship, and it was like imagine drunk driving one of these things. It was so good.
Okay. Not on TikTok.
TikTok has rotted our brains.
It really has.
Yeah, that's a good moment.
I say that whole sequence is cool also because you get to see a lot of like
You get to see the Jedi fighting without dying.
yeah, you get to see the Jedi fighting without dying. You get to see a lot of like the droids' war machines, which you don't really get to see a whole lot of.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because like you get some of the stuff that like in the games comes up and are really cool. Like you get the Hailfire droid,
Yeah.
the thing with the wheels that spits out all those missiles. That thing's awesome in Battlefront 2. Driving that around, great. You get the Spider Walker. You get all that. You get a lot of cool stuff.
I don't know if you've ever seen the YouTube channel Corridor Digital, but they have a series called CGI Artists React. And when they were talking about that moment, about how a major innovation in CGI came from that entire sequence was animating light and dust.
Yeah, because that dust effects are really cool.
So even just rewatching that scene, or I'm just like, this is, for what we will say is meant for kids to a degree. It's pretty intense.
Yeah. It's some brutal stuff. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people dying that you don't really notice in the background, but you're like, a lot of people
That
died.
just happens.
Anyway,
Anyway, that would be. I gave
you-
two
you-
answers in the row. So
that was 4 actually. You started at 1 and you went down to number 4.
well, anyway. Okay, well, you go.
You want to just finish it? Do 5 and 6, and we'll just start.
No, I
on
have
the
to
line.
think of 5 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 and 6 will be something we come up with.
Yeah, I think that
That's
might.
usually how I come up with these lists.
Yeah.
For me personally.
Okay, my number 5th pick, Order 66.
Fair.
Yeah.
Has to be there.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Has to be there.
Yeah, I don't know why we did 6 because I could think like that. My top 8 moments in the prequels are all just from.
Revenge of
episode
the
You
Sith.
said
three.
Yeah.
6.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why I said 6. We should have done like a top 15 because I feel like we're just gonna talk about episode 3.
No, not all of mine come from. I have other options. Okay.
Go
I do
ahead.
like the stuff on Camino.
Yeah. That was going to be my like the introduction of the clones. I think would probably be like my number 3 or 4.
made contact.
I
I
think
like those memes as you send me, Connor.
yeah. My number 2 would probably be Anakin and the clones walking up the staircase.
Yes.
I just love that. That
Anakin's-
specifically
Anakin's
part
dark
of
deeds.
Order 66. Yeah, that is beautiful.
That's a really good piece.
Um,
Episode 3. Oh, continue, sorry.
I'll say that's beautiful. Also made really powerful after you play the original Battlefront 2
Mhm.
and you play the story, and they have the 501st narration over that sequence. That was sick. That adds a lot to that.
Is that why we like episode 3 so much? Is because there's the companion video game
the
to it?
companion video? It makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying. If you haven't,
It might be.
do yourself a favor. Go play the story mode of
Not
the original Battlefront
the
2
remake. Go by
The
the
original.
original.
and listen to the story of the 501st
Yeah.
as told by that game.
Yeah.
And you will be like, wow,
I'm so
the
glad I
prequels
bought
are the greatest thing ever.
original before they came out with that remake.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were going to say a thing on it. And you were like, no, go ahead. You were going to make a comment of some kind.
I
What were you
forgot
gonna
what
say?
I was going to say. Oh, episode 3. Is that John Williams' greatest score?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Probably.
I don't think
I have it
that's up
saved
for
on my
debate.
Spotify, and I listen to it every once in a while. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, God damn, this is so good. And I know like each individual, like the one where it's like, ba-ba-ba-ba-na-na, ba-ba-ba-ba-na-na. And I'm like, I know what part of the movie that is.
I can see this scene in my head.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
I just wanted to ask that.
Mhm.
All right. What else? Any other moments you want to talk about? I don't.
Did you really just, you had one and you ran out?
Well, you guys took all of them.
Oh, I get, yeah. 'cause
Sorry
we were
about
just
that.
Like, we
Yeah.
did
No, I mean, I've kind of figured it was going to happen.
end up all of us having
Yeah.
similar stuff.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
trying to think of stuff that James didn't talk about.
Anything from episode 1?
I was going to say, bottom 6 moments.
See, the thing is, I like a lot of stuff from episode 1. I wouldn't really call them like my favorite moments.
Do
of
you
True.
like the spaceship battle at the end?
No.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad you guys are arguing for once. God damn, I feel like I'm on a goddamn hot seat over here. 2v1.
I appreciate the just the castle siege as a whole.
The what?
No, he said the space. The
space-
No, I know,
fight
but
space.
just in general too. I'm just saying, like, I appreciate that throughout this entire sequence, we have a 8-year-old kid who has no idea how much danger he's in, and he's just faffing about. And I get that it's probably like not how that's intended, but there is something so great about this kid just being like, "F it,"
Yeah.
and like we ball. Like I was like, this is such perfect how a kid would be reacting.
It's just like
he'd
back
either
home.
he'd either be screaming and crying and in a ball, or he'd be like, I don't know what's going on. This is fun. I'm playing a video game. As like actual death is happening.
I think it helps that he's killing droids and not
and
actual
not people.
humans.
Yeah.
This
'Cause
is an Ender's
otherwise,
Game.
I feel like,
Yeah, right. Yes, it's
I
an
feel
Ender's
like
Game, yeah.
Obi-Wan would 100% be like, so about you becoming a Jedi.
Yeah.
Like here's your crystal.
Yeah.
You'll notice it's red.
yeah. James?
I don't like it for that exact reason.
Yeah, that's fair.
There are two sides to every coin.
Yeah. Personally.
That's fair.
Personally.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Anakin, who is supposed to be the best pilot in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he outflies
He outflies everybody.
as an 8-year-old.
Yeah. He was totally. I feel like I'm arguing like his consciousness as like a war criminal to be like, he was in control. He had it taken off of autopilot. he test fired the rockets first.
Again, 8-year-old kid.
How does nobody die?
Yeah, the first thing I think about pressing is the big red button that
Yeah.
says boom. Like you're acting like you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I would definitely do it.
Yeah.
It's his. The fact you when you said that you don't think it was intended to be that way, I have the opposite reaction where I think it was intended, and I don't like it for that reason.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I wanted to see Anakin Skywalker out strategize these guys
Versus just
versus a kid versus him just suddenly turning from Lisan al Gaib to like everything is just an accident. Actually,
see, you can look at it as everything's just an accident, or you can look at it as it's the Force.
the movie
and he's
doesn't do that
manipulating
though, so get over it.
it. Fair enough.
Again, you guys with these arguments of like, well, you're supposed to look at it as like, no, you look at it how the movie presents it.
And it presents it as in it's all an accident.
yeah.
It doesn't intend for it
Yeah.
to do any of that stuff.
Unless. God damn it. You just don't have a big enough brain to understand his genius.
Look, I'm sure that the expanded universe writers have a perfectly
All right, that's
well
enough of
thought
that.
out and logical solution.
I think it's funny that there's apparently peaceful planet, like this planet of pacifists, just has like a armada of starship fighters. I think it's funny.
What I think is even funnier is that this is one of those weird things that like it was said kind of offhandedly and it's never really mentioned again. The blockade is legal. They bring that up at the very, very start. They're like, this blockade's legal. Like we have the right to do this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
in what galaxy is cutting a whole country's resources off and not allowing them to interact with the rest of the civilization at large a legal move?
Isn't Naboo just like war criminals that we just
like,
didn't know
yeah,
about?
I'm like, what background information are we missing? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's I guess it's just a throwaway line. It's just said to like, make us be like, oh, we're not actually evil, kind of thing. Before they're actually evil.
Naboo is Austria-Hungary who they started the First World War, but like everybody was on their side.
I feel like there actually
wild.
will be a logical explanation in the expanded universe.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah.
Because those writers love to do nothing more than to take one line, even in context, and just
Make it better. Yeah.
not just make it better, but just make it law.
Yeah.
Well, it was legal.
You know what I mean, though.
All right, that was 25 years of Phantom Menace. Any last closing remarks?
It's at least a C.
I'd put it up there in an A. I'd be honest. I love the Phantom
Honestly,
Menace.
that explains a lot about Connor's.
Unironically, you could watch the Phantom Menace and then compare it to like how I am as a person, and a lot of it lines up. Like a lot of it makes sense.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna put it against you. We all have movies when we were 5 that like
yeah,
we enjoy, even though they might be not
I
the
won't
best.
deny that there is a heavy-handed nostalgia factor involved in why I love the Phantom
And
Menace.
that's
so much.
fine. Absolutely.
I won't deny that. And I think that's just how some things are. It's the same reason I like a lot of the Pokemon movies, even though they're bad. And other crappy kids movies. My brain jumped to one of the Power Rangers movies, and I was like, that's bad.
Wait, which Power Rangers movie? The first one?
I don't even.
You
know
shut
what
your
it
whore
was
mouth right now.
Horribly
You're telling me when they jump out of the you're telling me when they jump out of the plane and they parachute down, that was a peak for you? Oh my god.
So anyway, this has been 25 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna disconnect my microphone.
This might have been the end of the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in this week.
Yeah,
This was a fun one.
it's fun to just talk about stuff that we all like. Like as it come down to
We all have different opinions
Yeah.
on things that we like.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we
Yeah,
all
yeah.
still enjoy Star Wars. We all love
Yeah.
Star Wars a lot.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't like you guys were like, here's a movie that like James.
James is secretly like, I actually hate Star Wars.
I'm like, some of us are more true fans than others.
What's that mean?
I don't do the EU. I'm very upfront about that.
Yeah,
No, it's each their own.
Yeah.
I just grew up with it.
It's not
that's
real.
all.
It's not real.
It's not
It's not
real.
real
It's
anymore.
not canon anymore. Yeah, thanks, Lucas.
Why am I gonna watch it if it's
Appreciate
not
it.
real?
Bastard.
He took Coruscant from him, but he didn't want anything else.
That's funny. All right. Thank you guys.
See you next time.
Oh, wait, before we go,
Oh,
listen to us on Spotify.
Oh yeah, we have to show yeah.
you gotta do an actual call to action.
Yeah, we keep
Outro.
forgetting the outro.
Listen to us on Spotify. Watch our Alien pod that released Friday. It is Alien episode.
Uh-huh. Watch the new one that'll release. Oh yeah, that never mind. I'm thinking
This
ahead.
releases on Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a doozy, but it's fun.
It's a good one. That easily the best episode yet. I think it was easily the best episode in terms
I
of
could
comedy.
not stop
Yeah.
laughing editing that episode.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Notifications. Do they still do the bell icon?
James, if they want updates, where should they go?
Should go to hitplay.pod on Instagram. Please follow us there. It
Bye.
improves my self-esteem.
Every like just makes me feel better as a person.
You don't even have Instagram. What are you talking about? I edit
right.
all of those clips,
We're gone.
and you don't even see them.